healthy baby girl, and we seek all of you to bless Harsh and his family on this amazing piece of news. We hope to see the baby soon.
Yes.
Small caps are celebrating that too today.
Not as much as yesterday. But yes, small cap is up almost 0.95%. और वहाँ पर bargain buying हो रही है अभी after the fall of 40-50% which has happened over the last 6 months. I think जो हो रहा है अभी वो ये है कि जो SIP flows आ रहे हैं small and mid cap में वो अभी deploy हो रहे हैं, बाकी सब लोग deploy कर रहे हैं. So if you look at I was doing an exercise from Jan to Jan and in January roughly around 10,000 crores का आया था पैसा SIP में small and mid cap funds में alone, right? The same amount is expected to come in February. So वो जो deployment है वो अभी हो रहा है, उसकी वजह से buying आ रही है.
Sandeep Tandon ने भी यही बोला था, right?
He was saying he is deploying his funds.
He is starting to deploy.
Deploying his funds. No, we don't know कि उसका असर कितना आएगा, but liquidity है and deployment है हो रहा है, उसकी वजह से काफी आ रहा है.
Yeah. So before we take questions today, by the way, before we take questions today, what our producers suggested we should do is that we drew up a list of the stocks which have fallen the most, and then we pick up 3 businesses where the commentary has been positive. By the way, I must say, Somit Sarkar, our colleague, has done a wonderful link on TV today, wherein he's brought out companies where the earnings growth for FY25 and 26 has actually seen an uptick. So EPS estimates have gotten upgraded, and yet the stocks have fallen because multiples have come down, and therefore that's a great mix of stocks जहाँ पे the earnings are still in your favor.
Yes.
Now you got to decide on the valuation. So we've actually even added a table of the valuations at which the stocks might be trading at to just give a sense ke where is it. So the likes of Nalco, he pointed out Arvind Smart Spaces, Avalon Tech, and a few others. There are some 10 businesses out there, which
P's तो गिरे हैं बुरी तरह उसके.
P's गिरे हैं, but earnings ऊपर गए हैं.
ऊपर गए.
Earnings ऊपर गए.
Earnings September से third quarter में आते ऊपर गए.
FY26 भी
ऊपर गया.
हाँ, FY26 भी ऊपर गया. And मैं बताऊँ ये ना इसमें सजीत, there's a bit of a valuation game here as well, I think. I'll tell you why. So without getting into names, but there was like 1 or 2 recycling companies. Okay, there are some 12-13 recycling companies, 1 or 2 recycling companies which reiterated their FY26 and 27 numbers. And on those valuations, 4 days ago, those stocks were available at, one stock was available at some 15 times, one was available at some 17 times. वहाँ से stocks 20-20 टका भागे हैं. So there are people who are fishing.
And we've been telling this to all our viewers that look at the stocks, how much they have fallen, look at the commentary which is coming in, and then you take a call on.
Yes, yes. Please look at it. सिर्फ ऊपर से नीचे गए, it doesn't mean you buy.
But with the
commentary and what valuations are they trading at, very, very important. There is option to make money. So, okay, now Sajeet, one stock each from the ones that, and then we'll take questions as well. Please send the questions. But we were looking at stocks which have fallen the most and where the commentary has been decent. I don't know about the valuations right now. I or Sajeet are not saying these are the stocks to buy, but they are just pointing out that this commentary
fundamentally वो कैसे दिखता है?
हाँ, commentary शायद ठीक थी. So I have chosen Vari as my first stock, and expensive stock. Multiples have gotten derated, as has happened with all the companies, but their confidence in Vari Energies, not those are के ऊपर वाला जो भी price है वो. Their commentary around what business is looking like, capacities coming up, margin picture and margin outlook, all of that at the end of Q3 has also sounded promising. The stock has of course gotten heavily derated, as have every renewable energy company, and therefore that
but this
bucket
is on the other side, manufacturing side of renewable energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not setting up.
Yeah.
You can argue like maybe a KPI is. It's not doing that or whatever. But it's a different models. Inox Wind is different, KPI is different, etc. But their commentary was very, very constructive. It didn't seem too perturbed by these tariffs and reciprocal tariffs and what could happen to business to exports to the US, because they have serious US business prospects as
and
well.
they're investing in US actually.
Yeah.
They're
So-
setting up facility in US.
So that was the first one that I thought from amongst the stocks that have fallen a lot. यहाँ पे commentary अच्छी थी. Your?
मेरा अदानी ग्रीन
Uh-huh.
almost 60% गिरा है
Must be.
from the top. Commentary bullish है because there is a green and their execution is happening on a very fast scale. वो जो हो रहा है. Yes, there is some bit of debt because रिन्यूएबल में डेट अपफ्रंट होता है और कैपिटल इंटेंसिव होता है, तो डेट है उधर. बट पॉइंट ये है कि ओवर द नेक्स्ट 3 to 5 years एज द एग्जीक्यूशन गोज अप, स्पेशली खावड़ा कम्स इन टू प्ले, देयर इज फ्री कैश फ्लोज विच आर गोइंग टू कम इन एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दैट इज एनीवे बीन PPAs साइन हो चुके हैं, तो वो कैश फ्लोज आने लगेंगे उसमें, एंड देन इट बिकम्स अ गुड प्ले टू, एंड दिस इज नॉट अ शॉर्ट टर्म प्ले, इट्स अ 3 to 5 years प्ले. अगर आप बिलीव करते हैं कि PM मोदी ने जो 500 गीगावाट का टारगेट दिया है 2030 तक वो आना है, तो यू हैव टू हैव अ वॉरी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अदानी green and other NTPC green, producing electricity so that it we reach that target of it. And if that is that faith is there that these companies can execute the green energy part of it, then it's a very big bet, because green energy is much more secure today as compared to maybe 5 years or 10 years back, जहाँ पर states नहीं लेते थे. अभी states लेते हैं, and then there's a first the right is to the green energy, that it has to be offtake होना चाहिए. और अभी लास्ट 2-3 दिन में जो एनर्जी सेविंग आया है norm, which is power ministry कह रहा है कि एटलीस्ट 2 hours of energy saving systems होनी चाहिए, which means that if you are producing green energy, then you need to store at least 2 hours of that. That will also increase the potential of revenue going forward for all green companies going, because आज के डेट में जो नाइट में प्रोड्यूस होता है, थोड़ा बहुत जो भी होता है वो सेव कहीं पर नहीं होता है, मीन्स so it helps you in saving that kind of energy which can be used during peak hours. It can be used for merchant power, all those things it can come in at that point in time. So from that point of view, yes, strong revenue is going to come in, cash flows, and there's better visibility of green coming into play.
Okay, so Adani Green is your first one. The second one जो मेरा है, okay, so there's a related question, so I'm taking that. Mr. Sekon is asking, in case of green energy and tech, what do you feel about China dumping? They have the knack of disrupting the entire domestic cycle time and again.
वो थोड़ा सा overblown है, and I'll tell you why it is, because the fact that जितने भी नए जो टेंडर्स आ रहे हैं गवर्नमेंट के, and that's coming at a condition that it has to be built and made in India.
Okay.
So many of them. So you need to have a higher content of Indian manufacturing in them. So even if China dumping is happening, it will happen to a small extent, but it's not going to be as big an issue for many of the companies, because the criteria for those orders which is going out from the government or from SECI, which is the institutional body which gives orders or floats tender, there is a inherent mechanism that you need to be producing in India over a period of time, and हमारा Indian capacity is increasing. So in that sense, it is going to be it's not that much of worry which market is talking about.
Okay, so that's the related question. The second stock that I chose, Sajeet, maybe you can only give a response to that.
Which one is this?
Sign DLM.
Interesting company. I met them at the Aero India. They're doing a lot of work in aerospace technologies, defense technologies. Almost, I was speaking to a couple of people in Boeing, in Thales. Everyone says that they are working with signed DLM in aerospace engineering, designing. They are moving from from a print to build to print, from to build to spec. What does it mean? It basically means that पहले आपको डिज़ाइन दिया जाता था, आप बनाते थे उसके हिसाब से. अभी वो खुद डिज़ाइन बनाते हैं वेंडर्स से या उनके जो OEM से अप्रूव करवाते हैं वो डिज़ाइंस को, एंड देन दे मैन्युफैक्चर or they go into the designing and software part of it, which is there. So that is a very high IPR business to go into build to spec, and it also builds capability for a company which is going, which is growing, and they're growing naturally. They're growing actually in that sense. Though I think काफी correction आया है इसमें ना.
Some में. Yeah, and I think after the Aero show they also did this tie-up with Rolls-Royce, if I'm not wrong, or some agreement with Rolls-Royce or Boeing. Either of the two, Boeing. Did something.
They did
so,
Boeing.
And we're trying to get the management really to try and tell us the significance of this, but let's wait and watch. So that's the thing. Now, before Sajeet gets into the other stock, there's a question from Puneet Javeri about whether Vari's cell business will become bigger than the module business. I mean, honestly, maybe we'll ask the management when they come and talk to us, but just the fact that the investments, right? I mean, the cell business, the plans are to set up a 6 gigawatt vertically integrated facility for ingots, wafers, solar cell and solar modules. So in some sense, they are putting the money where their mouth is. Now, whether it becomes very bigger than X or X is bigger than Y or not, but is this significant? It's very, very significant. Now, I'm sorry if it doesn't help you. Maybe tomorrow, if you give the context, Puneet, about what is the exact nature of the query that you have, we'll also try and take the question with the management. So keep that in mind. Sajeet, your second stock is Cochin Shipyard. Why so? Fatapat thoda. Then we have to take some queries.
Yeah, so I'm bullish on the defense part of it. They're getting good orders. There's a diversification which is also happening, which is into repairs, because repairs is a very highly lucrative business as compared to construction, because the margins are much higher in repairs there. And so there's a repairs business and they're building a separate yard for that, for repairs, which is there. Aside of the fact that they are the only shipyard which built the first indigenous aircraft carrier, and they're expecting the second one to come in. In the next 1 or 2 years, the second one will come in, because that capacity or that IPR which has been created, that should not go wasted, right? Because they lost first few years last time because there was no ability to make one. And they created that ability over a period of time, and the argument that management makes is that now that we have that IPR, we have everything in place, we should be able to replicate the second IAC within 6 to 7 years instead of taking 10-12 years earlier. So as and when the defense purchase open up, that may come in. The second and third aircraft carrier is been spoken about by both the Navy chiefs, and it's been a good chatter happening in the defense circle that we need to have that, because if Vikramaditya would be going at some point in time getting decommissioned, so they need to have the second one, which is to replace it. Okay. But the other fact is that they're getting into hydrogen cell, boats and ships, which is there. There is an export. The best thing is that I've seen a lot of companies now targeting exports, because that's part of their agreement with the government, saying that we will do 25% of the profits will come from exports. Or
30 more seconds, Sajeet.
So there is a good order book which is 3-4 years in play. There are diversification which is happening, and there's a constant cash flow which will come in as a result of the repairs and maintenance which they're going to get into.
Okay, so a clutch of reasons why, right? So that's the second one. Now, should we take some queries before we move on to the last set of stocks, right? So, So one query that has come in is on the stock, the cheat sheet for spotting such stocks. I'll tell you mine. Like my cheat sheet is that one ROC northwards of 20 at the very least. A lot of smaller companies don't have that, so you got to kind of play around a little bit, but ROC normally northwards of 20%. What is the multiple that they are trading at? And as a basic cheat sheet, P multiple is also okay. Then you can classify into EV EBITDA, EV per ton in case of cement, etc. But as a basic first filter, P is also okay, as long as the P is not Herculeanly higher. Fine. I mean, I've taken the levels higher to above 30 as well in order to shortlist things that we should try and call on the channel, etc. But P multiple is the second one. And then what is the growth that they are forecasting for the next 2-3 years? And then thoda ye basic cheat sheet hai, baad mein con call transcript, etc. to try and figure out whether they are living up to the numbers, etc. and stuff, and a little bit of scuttlebutt. I think all of that helps. So which is why I think that's the basic small filter that I would look at when I'm calling companies or thinking of businesses.
The basic thing is that you need to do your own research. And have conviction in that research, which basically, I mean, if you think that, and if you, once you start reading about an industry, you will get to know what an industry is all about. And the best way to learn for someone who's just coming in, pick up an IPO prospectus or RHP of a company which is coming in, read through the business as well as the industry which details which is there. It gives you a good understanding of how the industry works, and then it gives you an understanding of how the company works. This is for the IPOs which I'm talking about. But the industry thing which you talk, which you read, it can be used as a knowledge base when you do other company research, because it gives you a basic understanding of अच्छा स्पेशलिटी में ये ऐसे होता है, या डिफेंस में ऐसे होता है, या कैपिटल गुड्स में ऐसे होता है, या ट्रांसपोर्टेशन लॉजिस्टिक्स में this is how it works, and they talk about trends and other stuff which is there. So you can use that knowledge, apply in any company which is part of that industry, and then you see how does it fit in that industry in terms of growth, in terms of efficiency, in terms of margins, and finally the commentary which is coming in from the management, whether it's through an interview or whether it's through a transcript of a con call.
Oh, okay, that helps. A query from Shrikar Reddy, need your opinion on CDMO sector if Trump imposes tariffs. Shrikar, I must tell you. So, okay, his question is, if Trump imposes tariffs on bulk drug manufacturing companies, does it affect CDMO players also, as most of the CDMO players get contracts from bulk drug manufacturing companies? Shrikar, slight clarification out here. For a lot of Indian CDMO companies which have set up capacities, you named the names for Divi's, Hua, Laurus Hua, whatever it is, they are doing it for international companies. Their sizes are for international companies. There are Indian CDMO companies as well. So, for example, there's an Innova, CapTab, etc., which all cater to the Indian CDMO companies. So, part one of your question, the more popular and widespread ones and the more liquid ones, they are largely catering on the CDMO business to the global companies. So, keep that in mind. So, they don't get impacted per se, at least from an Indian tariffs perspective. Now, you would argue that what about the smaller CDMO companies, Indian CDMO companies, जो Indian companies, Sun Pharma, Lupin, जिसको सिप्लावा को supply करते हैं, वहाँ पे I think they already operate at bare minimum margins. If there is pricing pressure, if the pharma companies don't pass that on, orders will not stop. The costing will change for Indian pharma companies, the Aurobindos, the Sun Pharmas and the Lupins. I don't think the quantum of orders will change too much, and therefore I doubt that their business of the Indian CDMO will also get impacted too much, so keep that in mind.
And also the fact which company has what kind of exposure to the segments, verticals, whether it's oncology, whether it's cardio, whether it's pulmonary, those specialized segments. And the more the specialized segment, the impact of any price hike which comes from the CDMO company can be absorbed.
Yeah, but they might not be able to take the price hikes also. That's what I think.
I'm trying to say that ये उतना complex diseases में price move हो सकता है. But smaller diseases में DPCO की वजह से price capped रहते हैं, तो इसलिए you don't have much of a choice.
But the beauty of this question is it has prompted us to think of calling in an Innova, CapTab or a Lyris or some of the others on the channel and try and ask them that what will happen to them if indeed this comes. So this is something that we should try and do. So thank you for your question. Okay, Sajeet, Babu Selva saying has two questions, but we'll take one from his. He's talking about ITC. Down 97 rupees last 6 months. Will it bounce back? Right time to accumulate very quickly. Any thoughts, Sajeet?
It's perhaps the only company which doesn't have debt on its balance sheet. Only cigarette company, I would say. I think the next big trigger which can come from there is demerger of the IT arm which is there, and maybe paper arm which is there. FMCG, I don't think it will happen in a hurry which is there. The analyst has been asking, saying that separate FMCG from the cigarette business, but वो नहीं होने वाला है वो इतनी आसानी से, क्योंकि वहाँ पर काफ़ी bandwidth की ज़रूरत है FMCG में. But what we are seeing is the entire consumption impact which is coming in. Cigarettes continues to be the biggest driver for the company in terms of volumes, in terms of pricing, and that's partially offsetting the entire slowdown which is coming in other businesses for ITC. So yes, there is a fall of 1997 rupees which has happened, and if you look at the demerger part of it, थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा होगा उसकी वजह से, but I think it's a fundamentally a very good company. I mean, there's nothing wrong in this company except for some of the headwinds which is coming in form of consumption which is there. Cigarette पीना तो बंद नहीं कर रहा कोई. हम दोनों पीते नहीं है. But जो पीते हैं मैंने देखा है कि वो सिगरेट ज़्यादा पीते हैं आजकल.
Yeah. Okay.
But the biggest driver which is going to be is that the new thing which is there, the tobacco nicotine tablets, and that's something which may come in the next 1 or 2 years. And BAT का अगर commentary देखोगे, they are invested in ITC because they think ITC is the only vehicle through which they can bring that into India. Dr. Reddy's ने nicotine therapy शुरू की है. And they've started selling it in India. So maybe it's sometime in the near future you will find a BAT and ITC bringing in the same thing here, because ultimately I think जो मुझे सिगरेट वाले बोलते हैं उनको निकोटीन के लिए चाहिए. अगर निकोटीन थेरेपी अगर वो BAT दे सकता है, which BAT is doing in overseas countries, then ITC is a vehicle to do it.
Perfect. Okay. Rudra is asking about views on Mahindra and Mahindra. Now we have last 3 minutes. I'll take 1 minute for my third stock. Sajeet will take third stock. But Rudra is asking views on Mahindra and Mahindra. Rudra, I would urge you, instead of taking our views, there is a 20-minute, 25-minute conversation that I have done with
we'll drop it there.
Dr. Anish Shah. If you drop that, try and hear that. If you hear that, you will gauge the confidence of the guy. The results were good. Everything was good. Brokerage targets are high. But there is a perceptible risk in the market about Tesla entry and how will companies. Citi guys were saying that fragmentation alone might just make the market make people a bit jittery.
It's at least a year away. Means the point is that अगर Tesla कल बोलता है कि मैं enter करूँगा और मैं hire कर रहा हूँ, 1 साल लगेगा Tesla को आने में इंडिया में. Because you cannot just come into the country without any back-end support. You need to have at least some back-end support with respect to servicing, with respect to other stuff which has to be done. It will take at least a year उसके लिए. और उस 1 साल में we'll see not only Mahindra but also Tata Motors and Maruti. Today's Maruti is an update which has come in. These 3 domestic firms will ensure that they are a main player in this market, even if Tesla comes in.
Yeah, okay. Final stock, Sajeet, your final stock.
My CMS, CAMS basically. A bet on capital markets. Irrespective of what the volumes are, transactions will go up. Mutual fund folios are going up every month, despite last October से हम देख रहे हैं कि markets गिर रहा है, पर folios हर महीने increase हो रहे हैं. There is and this is something which is going to drive CAMS. Capital markets is something which will be growing at a very high rate compared to any other services, if I may. And that is something is interesting for me, and CAMS is the way to play, because आप redeem कर सकते हो या बाकी कुछ भी कर सकते हो अपने, means you can add to your portfolio, redeem, but you will need to have a CAMS as a back end.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Mine was IPL, and I chose only because there are a lot of people who are talking of how some of the okay, so I have to change this very quickly because we are running out of time. But who do we have? We have Harsh Sehta.
Achha.
Harsh Sehta is asking a question. Guys, all of you, please join me and Sajeet in congratulating Harsh yet again. We did it at the start of the show as we are wrapping up. We should congratulate Harsh and his better half, and I mean a better half, on the little angel that is born to them. So, nazar na lage, kala tika and all, and please give your blessings and best wishes.
हमने ये इसके बारे में बात की है अभी.
हाँ, हमने इसके बारे में बात करी है. You should have heard this well. But you're busy with fatherhood, so can't really do it. Okay, very quickly, we have to take this question before we wrap up. Trin Nugent mentioned on the interview today that India needs to use its huge labor force and focus more on manufacturing. Why do we lag behind other Asian countries on the manufacturing side? Does Indian perception affect it? No, I don't think so. In fact, if I'm not wrong, I mean, so when I go to Davos as well, everybody talks about how they actually want to set up large pockets in India.
There's a view which is there that the productivity in India is low, even though we work many hours. I think 42 hours a week we do, which is second or third highest in the world. But our productivity is very low. And I think now private sector is focusing on productivity. And when you start focusing on productivity, yes, labor scales and everything comes into play, and the industry comes into play, but it also increases the margins which for companies and going forward. So that productivity gain will translate into not only that economic growth which is coming in, but also in terms of corporate.
नहीं, but अभी तक क्यों क्वेश्चन ये है कि अभी तक लैग क्यों कर रहा है? वैलिड क्वेश्चन है. आई मीन बिकॉज as much as we talking about PLI schemes etc, India's share of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP is come off quite rapidly. Good question. Actually, I don't want to just say it just like that. I will comment on this tomorrow. I don't know if you have a thought.
No, I have only a simple thought. Manufacturing, regaining manufacturing stake in the GDP, it's not a 1 year or 2 quarters thing. It requires at least 5 years.
नहीं, but अभी तक क्यों वीक है? ये पूछ रहे हो.
Because emphasis नहीं था ना. Emphasis नहीं था.
PLI schemes तो लास्ट 5 साल से हैं.
5 साल से नहीं है. मतलब आते आते तो 2-3 साल हुए ना. उसका जब तक वो आएंगे तब तक टाइम लगेगा. वो तो साइकिल जो बन रहा है उसके लिए टाइम लगेगा.
No, there could be various reasons, but I would love to give a response on this tomorrow because I think it's a very important question.
Maybe we can check with Pallavi what is her view on it.
Yeah, or check with a couple of other economists as well, and let's try and figure that out. Okay, perfect. ठीक है. My last stock was IPL or India Pesticides simply because it's fallen quite a bit. Good business model. Chemical companies hopefully create a bottom at some point of time. So worth studying is the limited point I'm making.
And इसमें agri-chemicals का क्या role?
That is, so for every company which has got this agrochem thing, and Deepak Nitrite's commentary suggested, right? At the same time, both verticals, agrochem and otherwise, have shown a simultaneous slowdown, which is why I think it's hit, but it is bottoming out. Very likely Q1 onwards things will pick up. So for a lot of chemical companies, again it's a hope trade, but Q1 could look materially different than how Q3 is looked.
Just on positive note, कल का अगर आप nowcast देखोगे RBI का, they're talking of 6.6% in Q4, which basically means that they're talking about higher economic activity happening in Q4, Jan and Feb mid. And अगर आप Jan का अगर आप e-way bill देखोगे, it's up around 12% if I'm not wrong. Also, so that
and December capex was very strong too.
Yeah.
So hopefully all of that.
So when we say e-way bills are gone up, it basically means that goods are moving from one region to another region, and that pace is picking up. So that shows the economic activity which is coming.
On that note, Harsh and family, once again, congratulations. We love you all. And Harsh, you're being missed for the next few days, but enjoy this blessing in life. And to all our viewers, thank you for joining in. We'll be back tomorrow at 12:30.
Yes. It's holding up, small cap.
Are we 0.8?
Almost a %.
आज का एक झकास
3% बढ़ गया.
LIC MF लाइट टाइम पे आके बोला था.